Hey, you're listening to Stop the Scroll, a social media marketing podcast, and I'm your host, Heidi Schmidt. I'm a social media strategist and agency owner with over 15 years of marketing experiences helping businesses grow online. We'll be diving into what you need to know so that you can show up confidently online without the overwhelm. Get your notebook ready to jot down some amazing marketing gems, and let's dive into it. Welcome back to another episode of Stop the Scroll. I'm so glad that you're here and listening, and I am your host, Heidi Schmitz, a social media strategist, agency owner, and I love talking about social media. Another thing that I really love talking about is kind of self-care. Who doesn't love talking about self-care? Like, how do you take care of your mental health? And, we as business owners definitely know that, time is of the essence. And when you think about social media and self-care, the two don't really go together sometimes. There's the comparison trap, there's just lots of burnout, and there's burnout in general about being a business owner. We know this. So today we're talking about how do we avoid that social media burnout. When you get burnt out on social media and just creating, how do you kind of get back your inspiration? So, and this is important because, I am a small business owner. I own my own agency. And even as a social media strategist, I sometimes find it really, really challenging to keep showing up. And now I get stuck in the trap of dealing with client content and managing my team and all that kind of stuff. But there are strategies that can help you avoid social media burnout. So the reality is that we know that when we get burnt out, and it doesn't even have to just be social media per se, it can be kind of anything that's going on in your business that could be leading you to burnout. Maybe you're working too much. Maybe you haven't taken time off. It leads to just feeling tired all the time. For me, I get high anxiety and reduced productivity. I don't want to do anything. I shut down. I take naps. I take naps even when I'm not burnt out, but that's just because I work 10 feet from my bedroom. So, but when you're feeling that burnt out, you're probably also experiencing this lack of creativity. And, I remember I have a client that I started working with last year, and one of the main reasons why she hired me was because she just always felt like she hated just always showing up and always having to think about what am I going to post? What am I going to post? So she outsourced to me, and she still posts on her own social media, but it kind of gives her room to be a little bit more creative and show up how she wants to show up and really put her heart into those posts. And I tell her every month when we meet, those are your best performing posts. But by outsourcing it, she didn't have to worry about the consistency. If she doesn't post anything for 2 weeks, she knows that we got her. There's still going to be content going out. I thought that this was really interesting. I was kind of researching when I was looking at entrepreneur burnout and everything. There was a study done by the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, NIOSH, that basically said that 72% of entrepreneurs are directly or indirectly affected by mental health issues, whether that's anxiety, whether that's maybe it's a little bit of neurodiversity. There's a whole generation of women out there who have undiagnosed ADHD that shows up as anxiety, perfection, procrastination, all that kind of stuff. Hi, it's me. But then another report from Gallup found that 62% of small business owners report that they work over 50 hours a week. I relate to that. And often blur the lines between personal and professional life. And we know that people that have a work-life balance, which is really, really hard as an entrepreneur, we know this, really kind of struggle with some of that work-life balance. And over the past couple of weeks in my own agency, I have dealt with lots of shuffling around. I have a client who's probably on her way out later this fall. I just have this feeling, some of the comments that she's made, I just have this feeling, which is fine. Not everyone values social media, or they outgrow it, or they have to cut back for financial reasons, whatever it is. So I'm kind of prepping for that. But also, one of my content creators accepted a more full-time job, so she had to scale back. And then So I basically decided to let go of an agency client of mine, and it was a really, really hard decision. But ultimately, I got sick a couple weeks ago. We all kind of got COVID. We were up and visiting family, and it's going around, people. It is going around. But I didn't really get to take a lot of time off, and I had flown up to Connecticut on Wednesday, and I was there hoping that I could take those 2 days off. And then my content creator who is leaving me, she's absolutely lovely. I wish her nothing but the best. She's seriously amazing. It's kind of a trickle down effect when you're all kind of, we're all freelancers. And when you get that overworked, and I've done it myself with my agency client, I have been overworked and the work that I've done for her has suffered. So you have to know your limits. You have to know when to scale back. So I'm kind of in like a scaling back phase. And my income's going to take a little bit of a hit, not too much. And I'm confident that over the next like 3 to 6 months, I'm going to make up for it because I'm rethinking my own offers. And I'm thinking about them in the way that, like, how do I better show up for myself and show up for my family? Because it's productive for no one if I am working from home in my little corner of my office for 50 to 60 hours a week. Like, I had a job that I did that and I hated it. And I really like working for myself, but I need to find a better work-life balance. So, figuring out what you as a business owner really needs to do to find that work-life balance. So, how do we take our relationship with social media and play into that work-life balance with our social media habits? Because we're all a little addicted to the scrolling. Like, let's be honest. I get trapped on TikTok also and Instagram. And avoiding that scroll, like setting time limits for yourself, is going to help your productivity. Maybe it's setting a timer, maybe it's setting time limits on your app. I know someone who does that, scheduling posts, and really, like, don't spend all day engaging on the app. You don't need to. Maybe engage in the morning when you post, and then maybe in the evening. But finding how you can avoid that, because we know that constant scrolling, it's a dopamine effect, and we're all kind of seeking that dopamine rush. And we know that when we stop scrolling, like, there's a little bit of like, okay, how do I get back into whatever it was that I was doing? So get out of the scroll trap. Another way to kind of avoid social media burnout: work smarter, not harder. Batch your content. I've talked about batching content. There was a guest that I had on a few episodes ago, which I will link to in the show notes, who actually has a content batching guide. And she talked about it, and it was really, really thoughtful. I am really terrible at batching my own content. I'm not going to lie. I occasionally do, and that's when you see me show up like 5 times in a week because I've batched my content. However, I will say the last time I got my hair cut, I recorded probably like 10 reels. So I've been consistently posting 1 to 2 reels a week because I batched them when I got my hair done. And I'm really excited because I'm getting my highlights done here coming up, and I'm going to batch more content. For me, like, when I do that, like, I tend to, I'll let myself scroll for a few minutes and find some inspiration. Like, hey, what have I screenshotted that I really like? What are some topics that I want to talk about? What do I want to try to promote? And kind of set a goal there. And sometimes I'll jump on trends. Sometimes I might just record some B-roll content. So pick a day, like maybe it's twice a month, that you just batch, and make a goal to like batch record like 5 to 6 reels that you can record. I have a content planning guide that I will link to in the show notes that helps you map out your ideas, map out your content pillars, and it comes with a little content calendar so you can kind of map out when you're going to post what. When you batch your content, it really helps you not worry every day, like, oh my God, what am I going to post? Oh my God, I got to post something today. What am I going to post? Let me scroll through and see if I can find some inspiration. Okay. oh, I haven't written a blog post. And then you just kind of get into this trap of like, I have to do all the things before I can post on social media. And that's not productive. That's not helpful. That's not a good use of your time. So batch your content, map out what you want to post about. And, even if you write the captions one day and record the reels another day, and this is what my guest a few weeks ago talked about, is picking a day that you do one specific content batching task. So it takes like 3 days, but then you get like 2, 3, 4 weeks of content. So batch your content because it's going to help reduce those daily social media tasks and allow you to focus on other things and be more productive. We talked a little bit about setting boundaries and time management. And a few months ago, I had a great chat with my business coach about setting boundaries. Like, I will stop working at 5:30 at night. Now, that doesn't always happen. I'm not going to lie. However, I try to make it so that when I do work late, it's usually for my own work. It's not client work, unless, like I'm sick on a Friday and I don't get to approve any of my client content for the next week. So I got to like get it all out on Monday and I have meetings and, trickle down effect again. Set a schedule for when you're going to allow yourself to open up apps. For me, I tend to check Facebook in the morning and in the afternoon. And I let myself scroll because I know that I get a lot of clients from Facebook, especially specific Facebook groups. So I know that I want to be active in those groups, usually like once a day. So I'll like look through, engage with some posts, all that kind of fun stuff. Instagram, I tend to be a little bit more like willy-nilly. I'm going to sit here and scroll and oh shit, 30 minutes has gone by. Where did the time go? So I need to be a little bit better about Instagram personally. Same with TikTok. I tend to look at in the morning, like when I'm eating breakfast, going through email, that kind of stuff, and in the evenings. And I have been trying to post more on TikTok, mainly like I don't think my audience is necessarily on TikTok, but I enjoy playing around with videos. And I enjoy seeing what the trends are. And that's where I find trends that are great for me to share with clients to just kind of know, like, okay, I know this stuff is trending on TikTok now, so it's probably going to be trending on Instagram in like 2 to 3 weeks. So let me put a pin in that. I also have some accounts that I just absolutely love following on TikTok. And if you have a favorite TikTok account that just does amazing content, whoops, I'm like flailing here. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching the video, like I'm like all over the place. My arms are all over the place. Um, anyhow, but there are also apps like if you feel like you are spending too much time on social media, I challenge you to look at your app report, especially if you have an iPhone. Like it tells you how much screen time you have. So I always challenge myself to make sure that like week over week, like my screen time has gone down. Especially on weeks when I know that like, okay, I've done a lot of scrolling here. Like the week that I'm recording this, I haven't had a lot of meetings, so I have been heavy on the scroll because I've been doing a lot of research and looking at things and seeing what my competitors are doing because I'm launching a new service. So I'm kind of just looking at how are other social media managers who are doing this thing, how are they pitching it? How are they talking about it? Because I kind of want a little bit of inspiration. So create boundaries for yourself as to when you're going to get on each of the apps. And like for Instagram engagement, again, like you only need to be on there like 10, 15 minutes. Like I challenge you, like go 5 minutes before you post, like scroll through, engage with some of your favorite accounts, your ideal audience accounts. And then after you post, like go through another like 5, 10 minutes. And then later on in the day, log back in, see if you've gotten any comments, make sure you engage with those and respond to any DMs, all that kind of stuff. I get so many notifications from Meta Business. I literally have started putting my phone on Do Not Disturb, especially on days when I have a lot of meetings, because I don't want every pop-up notification to distract me. And I have the kind of attention span like Doug from Up, like squirrel, where if I see all these notifications, I will get distracted. So I try to pick like 2 or 3 times a day that I like log in, see if there's anything that needs to be responded to from my account, from my client accounts, all that kind of fun stuff, which has helped reduce my social media usage. And I too like to play the games. And often I will go through phases where I will be super into a game and I will play it all the time. This, again, a little bit of my undiagnosed ADHD here. If I find that I'm like spending too much time, I will delete it because ain't nobody got time for that. So if you find that like you need to cut back on your time, like first of all, don't delete the Instagram app if you have Reels drafts in there because you will lose them. So make sure you back those up onto your phone. But if you need to delete any of the social media apps to protect your mental health, to set those boundaries, or to reset your boundaries, delete the apps, even if it's just for a weekend. Like, there are so many influencers that I follow that have been very vocal about how, like, when they need to work on their mental health, they delete apps and they take a break. I wish I could do that. I've never deleted a social media app. I have never done that. Next, delegate. Delegate your social media tasks. Like, if you find that it is sucking up too much of your time, then outsource it. Especially like if you have the monetary ability in your business to outsource it. If it's a time suck for you, or if it's something that you know that you should be doing better on and you just don't have the time to, like, outsource it. There is a statistic that entrepreneurs who delegate tasks are 33% more likely to grow their business and avoid burnout. So whether that's your bookkeeping, whether that's your marketing, and I say marketing like marketing as a whole, whether that's your social media, whether it's your accounting, whatever it is, like HR, hiring, all that stuff, you can outsource all of that. So whatever is sucking up your time and preventing you from doing the things that you actually enjoy doing in your business, outsource it. Just saying. There are people there that would take those tasks off of your plate. Let them. There's someone out there for every budget. I guarantee you. Like, even if you have a small budget, like, you can find a virtual assistant to help with some of that admin marketing type stuff. Don't think because you have a small budget that there's no one out there. Prioritize your self-care. Prioritize stepping away. For me, one of my big things for self-care is on the weekends, I don't spend that much time on social media. And I will occasionally, like, I will check in usually in the mornings on my client accounts. But otherwise, like, I want to be outside. I want to be hanging out with my friends by their pool. I want to be going on adventures with my family. I want to be, doing yard work, whatever it is. I want to have a clean house, do laundry, catch up on chores, all the things that I don't often do very well during the week. I want to take care of those on the weekend. So I don't want to be stuck like scrolling on social media. So don't be afraid to like disconnect. Don't be afraid to have those boundaries. Like on Saturdays, I'm not going to check in on social media. I think that that's pretty healthy. And depending on your business, like maybe that's something that you can't necessarily do with your business. Like if your busiest day is Saturday, like if you're retail, like maybe you got to post in the morning. But like don't be afraid to like automate your message or messenger responses so that people know like, oh, hey, maybe you got to call us, or hey, we don't monitor this account. If something's urgent, drop us an email and give your contact information, something like that, to kind of put the pressure off of you. I think there's plenty of ways that we as social media professionals, especially, have learned that, like, I'm trying to think about like how to say this. I had a boss one time who I used to work late. We were I don't want to say bootstrapped agency, but we were a small agency and there was a lot of work. And I was an account manager, but like I did everything for my clients. We had some freelanced blog writing through a program called Xeris, but like the landing pages, the social media content, all that stuff like went through us. I managed that for, the accounts that I managed. I had a boss who once said when I was working late, he's like, listen, we're not curing cancer. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And know that we're not curing cancer. This is not the end of the world. If it doesn't get done today, that's no one's going to die. No one's going to die. It's just social media. It is not the be all end all of the world. And I say this as a social media manager who, I make my living from social media, but like if there is a post that, I forgot to hit schedule on it, like it's not the end of the world. I'll schedule it for tomorrow. Or I'll post it when I see it. I did that like twice the other day. Whoops. COVID brain fog is very real. If you have suffered from that, like I feel you, man. I feel you. I feel you so badly. But yeah, so as we near the end of summer and, especially summer when people take time off, like take care of yourself. Don't be afraid to disconnect. Don't be afraid to batch your content. Don't be afraid to just not show up for a day or two. Like it's not the end of the world. And don't be afraid to outsource things. Whatever's taking up time and space in your brain or in your business, there's a better use of your time than doing whatever it is that's taking up that space. Outsource it. And if you need, like if you're looking for someone, especially if you're local to the Anne Arundel County area, if you are looking for something specific in your business, like please reach out to me. Like I've got a big network and I'm always happy to connect my business owner friends or business besties, as we sometimes call each other, to other businesses that might help them just like find more joy in being an entrepreneur because sometimes like it's a lonely space and it's hard and not everyone gets it when you're like in the trenches and feel like you're climbing up this uphill battle and shit just keeps getting thrown at you and you feel like you can't win. That's how I felt lately. Find your people, whether you have another business friend that you can vent to, or if you have a therapist, like don't be afraid to talk to someone. If you're like really, really suffering and really, really on the struggle bus, like disconnect, turn off your phone, and go talk to a therapist. I highly encourage that. Therapy helped me get through some really, really tough times, especially like when I lost my job back in 2020. And like one of my first clients, he was just like super toxic, man. It was a project-based thing. And it lasted for about the summer of 2020. And I'm not gonna say bipolar because like that's a real illness. But it felt like he was bipolar. Like one minute he absolutely would love you, and the next minute he'd be like yelling at you, telling you that you were incompetent at your job and why did he hire you? Like it was that bad. And we would have calls with all these contractors and developers that he was working with, and I felt like when I was on that project doing some HubSpot work, I questioned myself and I questioned whether I was going to make it. I questioned whether or not I was doing the right thing. I questioned, oh my God, can I not do this? Do I not know enough? And there was so much self-doubt. Eventually, like I finished up the work and I just kind of ended things. I was like, nope, I'm done here. I'm done. But if you find yourself in that self-doubt trap or that comparison trap, especially if you're spending so much time on Instagram and you see other people in your industry with thousands and thousands of followers. And I feel this all the time because there are so many social media managers out there who have diversified their income, which is what I'm trying to do. And they have like tens of thousands of followers. And I'm like, God, how do I get there? It took me 4 years to get 1,000 followers. Now, granted, like I have not always been consistent at posting, but the comparison trap is so, so real. And if you find yourself falling into that trap for your own self-care, mental well-being, like turn off the app, unfollow whoever it is that you're following that you're comparing yourself to. Like the unfollow button is a good thing. If you find yourself comparing yourself to people, especially if they're in your industry and you follow them, the unfollow button is a good button to use. Because ultimately, when you think about it, those people that you are comparing yourself to, especially if they are in your industry, if they might be competitors, maybe they live across the country, they are not your audience. They are not the people that you want to be buying from you. So unfollow. Simple as that. Your mental health will thank you. Also, we discussed this in my masterclass a while ago, and I'm going to wrap this up here. It was like, why are we still following our family on our business accounts? They can follow us for sure, but why are we still following our family? Like, you don't need to follow your family. You don't need to follow friends. You don't need to follow former friends. Like, unfollowing people or competitors or whoever it is that does not serve your mental health, who makes you feel less than, who makes you feel like you're incapable, who just triggers that feeling of low self-worth, unfollow them. I challenge you to unfollow them. Your mental health will thank you. Anyhow, main strategies here: batch your content, save your time, set boundaries for your social media use, get out of the scrolling trap, set time limits, all that kind of fun stuff. Delegate and outsource if you need to, and don't be afraid to turn off. Prioritize your mental health, whether that's unfollowing, whether that's deleting the app, whether that's removing notifications, using the do not disturb feature, whatever that is. Prioritize your mental health and protect your space. Protect your mental health, like protect it. I encourage you, if you find yourself struggling, especially if you fall into that comparison trap, especially if you're just like feeling the burnout, I encourage you to implement these strategies. And if you're interested in outsourcing, whether you're interested in outsourcing all of your social media management, I would love to chat with you. Or if you just need help batching your content, I am so excited to launch my VIP content creation days. So it's like 8 to 10 hours, and you get an hour-long strategy session where we map out the content that we're going to create. I come on site with you for 2 to 3 hours, and then you get anywhere from 10 to 15 reels, depending on what we mapped out together. And I do all the research, I find trends. I also make a list of evergreen B-roll that we can repurpose and reuse. And I come up with basically a month's content calendar with suggested captions that you can fill in the blanks for. I do hashtag research. It's an amazing, amazing thing. And I'm so, so excited. I've been going on site with more and more of my clients to help them capture that content. Usually I require my retainer clients to send me content, but some of them are better about it than others. So basically, I created this VIP content day for people who can't necessarily outsource, but need that extra support just creating their content. So if you're interested, feel free to get in touch with me. I would love to chat. Strategy sessions are still a thing too, 90-minute strategy sessions, because ultimately, like, it's not a bad thing to ask for social media help. Not everyone is an expert in Instagram. And if you feel like you're like pushing the content wheel up and having it roll back, I forget which Greek god it was that, he was in Hades and would push the rock up the hill and then it would just keep falling on him. I forget who that was, but you can get off the content treadmill. There are ways. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much, as always, for listening. If you love this episode, connect with me on Instagram at Heidi Schmidt Creative. Resources mentioned are in the show notes, and leave a review. Telling people why you love listening to me is always helpful. So please, please, please leave a review, share with your friends, anyone that you think that would benefit from all of the fun social media knowledge. Until next week, go forth, create content, protect your mental health, and connect with me online. Talk soon.